We recognize that the Champlain Valley Unitarian Universalist Society gathers on the land of the Western Abenaki people. We respect their spiritual relationship to the land. We hope to learn from them how we can live together in peace and justice.
Morning, everyone. Because we're outside, we can sing. Yay, right. Please keep your mask on while singing. We're going to sing Blue Boat Home.
Welcome, Wind. Welcome,
Wind Communion will be next week.
Communion will be next week.
Okay. All right, everyone. Okay. We're learning. We are. Okay. Welcome, everyone, both in person and online, to the Champlain Valley Unitarian Universalist Society service for September 19th, 2021. My name is Julia Chant. Today we celebrate our yearly ingathering and water communion, as well as the installation of our board. The Reverend Barnaby Feeder will lead our service today. Both Martha Folda and I will be serving as worship associates. Please note, the lyrics for today's hymns can be both found in our teal books, but if you're on Zoom, they will be in the chat area for your. So today there is a whole team that made this service possible. Thank you, Ronnie, and the whole choir for today's great music. Our talented technical team this week included Margie Young, Alan Moore, Rich Wolfson, Richard Hopkins, and Abby Sessions. If this If this is your first time with us, CVUUS seeks to be an inclusive community that offers spiritual sustenance and religious education. We are open to all who find our commitment to religious integrity and social justice inspiring. Please stay connected with us. To do this, you can sign up for our weekly newsletter by sending an email to office@cvuus.org. I would like to highlight 3 opportunities for connection this week. The first is the Addison County Crop Walk, and it will follow next week's service. We're all going to meet at the town green at 12:30. Hopefully be able to do some group pictures and then start walking at 1 p.m. Another event this week is Francois Clemons will be reading from his book, Officer Clemons, at the Mahaney Center at Middlebury College, Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. There will be storytelling and singing, assuming the pandemic does not force a change of plans. And finally, a memorial service will be held for Anne Brousseau this Saturday in the sanctuary from 10 a.m. to noon. Now would be an excellent time to turn off your Wi-Fi and silence your ringers as we begin. Can't do anything about the plane though. Okay, so this week we'll be combining the call to worship and the chalice lighting with a particularly apt piece written by Katie Gelfand titled "The Spirit of Water." And since we're outside and dealing with the wind, the chalice will be lit inside to shelter it. And you can see it right through the window there. We light this chalice as a symbol of reunion. We reunite at this sanctuary to show of our hearts with one another. We gather together in ritual to celebrate our fountains of joy, to hold each other through storms of grief, to guide one another through rapids of transformation, to rest together on ponds of stillness. Together, we honor the spirit of water, its many forms, and its life-giving essence.
All right, you can join me now for "There's a River Flowing in My Soul," the teal hymnal. In the teal hymnal.
Well, I think the God of looked at the water of this region. And can anybody out there hear this? So I'll try to speak even louder. So our focus is on trying to get a little bit into the sensibility of how the people who lived here before us understood water. And their world was a world of watersheds. They understood where everything started and where it flowed into Lake Champlain, the center of their universe that was so important. They had a separate creation story for Lake Champlain. And Champlain had an important name for them, which is loosely translated as between two. And it was between two of everything. It was between them and the Iroquois nation to the west. It was between the Adirondack Mountains and the Green Mountains. It was between their hunting grounds to the north and the south. And it was between land and water to them because it was a long, thin lake with so much land near it and islands in it. And so that one name conveyed everything about their physical relationship to the lake at the center of their universe. And they understood every watershed to be a little bit different. And they understood where the hunting places were in that watershed. And they understood where the places that were good places to live because you had flowing water were in that watershed, and they moved around in them. And the names that they had, to the degree we can understand them, because there's a lot of discussion about what the Abenaki names were, tended to be very descriptive. The Flat River, the river with the otters, which is descended into Otter Creek, the Meadowy and Poultney rivers, which flow into the very, very south end of Lake Champlain when it really looks like a creek. Meadowy means the far away river because it was far away from where most of the Abenaki lived. And so they had this relationship with the land where even the names had to convey exactly where it related to their physical life. Now, when Poppy and I started talking about how we might do something that the children might appreciate to understand this very physical relationship, of course, I had these very grand illusions of mapping out our property and rivers flowing into a Lake Champlain here in the middle. And it's a tribute to how we look at the pandemic that we kept pivoting and changing and pivoting and changing. And so we have a setup now where those children who are here or anybody who is really young at heart wants to go around as we talk a little bit more about this and collect a series of different colored, I think we ended up with yarn after several transitions, representing the different tributaries and some of the animals that were crucial to the life of the Abenaki that they might have associated with different territories. And that's all going to come back here to Lake Champlain. And while I'm talking, Julia is going to set up Lake Champlain with the help of at least one volunteer. Who is going to be my volunteer here? Carol's going to come up. We're going to turn the blue table on its side here out front. And we have our Blue River, which some of you will recognize from the past water communions, which will be draped over it in front. And if we could move that right out here where folks can see it a little bit better, that would be great. And meanwhile, all the various pieces of yarn are being gathered up and will come back into this lake. Now, we went back and forth talking about the different animals that were important. And of course, a tribe in this area would have had different stories, different cultural touchstones for every kind of animal. And we chose just 5 representing 5 tributaries. And see, Poppy is beginning the collection now. Poppy, can someone deliver the first animal to me? Rather than tie actual animals to the different tributaries, we made pictures of them. And we'll talk a little bit about them as they arrive. This is, the choreography is difficult on this. And here comes the first animal. This is the equivalent, the Time for All Ages equivalent to the Pony Express. Thank you, India. So in the first watershed, let's say it's what we today call Lewis Creek. The Indian name was Place of the Fishing Weir, which means that they probably piled stones in certain areas to help them catch fish. And our first animal of importance to the folks in this region was the otter. And of course, there were multiple streams that had otter in their name for the Abenaki. There was the Big Otter Stream, there was the Little Otter Stream, there was the Crooked Otter Stream. And so this was a primary animal for our Abenaki, not necessarily the bands of the tribe in other parts of New England. I'm going to pass this off to Julia to hold. And in order to keep things moving, I don't want to drag this out too long. I'll say that I'm expecting, I'm not sure what order, I'm expecting a bear to arrive. And the bear were very important in terms of every part of their body, sort of like the bison out on the plains, being clothing, being medicinal, being a sign of welcoming to strangers. You would put out the rug for the strangers to sit on when they came to visit. And so the bear was a very important animal. The most important bird was the eagle. It was the one they believed could fly the highest and see the most. They had very important relationships with other birds. The owl was a very complicated one. It was both an omen of negative things at times, but also impressive for its ability to move around in the dark and see where no one else could see. And that was something that was very important. Another animal very important to the local culture was the deer, a main source of subsistence. And again, in each of these valleys, each of these watersheds, they would relate to it by where they were going to be able to find deer. We've paved over everything, created roads over everything. The only thing we know about deer is that they show up in our garden. We don't really know where they hang out. The hunters do sometimes, but it's only at the time of year when they're allowed to hunt. And a very, very different relationship to the land. And while we're gathering up these other animals, I just want to say that what this means for us, I think, here today is that they viewed each land as distinct in its gifts, although it all looks sort of the same to us, and we call it all the Champlain Valley. And in some places, they had special stories for each watershed of things that had happened there in their tribal history that they passed down orally. And the message I want us to take away is that under everything we see is a land that's rich in stories about many, many gifts. And it all comes together in Lake Champlain in an origin story. And I think that one of the things we can ask ourselves in Water Communion every year is how all of our gifts come together to create an ongoing origin story for CVUUS, a story that began in 1986 and continues even today as we make this congregation what it can be. So Ronnie has a round to teach us, a beautiful round that was, I first heard, leave that there for a second, please. But that I first heard at a Sacred Water ceremony on Shelburne Bay last week and brought back to him. And so I invite everybody to listen to the round, pick it up. The words are in your order of service. And I think it'll be fun for all of us to sing, even those of you who are watching at home.
The river is flowing, flowing and flowing. River is flowing out to the sea. River is flowing, flowing and flowing. River is flowing down to the sea. Father, all I will always be. Father, carry me down to the sea. Father, carry me, your child I will always be. Father, carry flowing and growing, the river is flowing down to the sea. The river is flowing, flowing and growing, the river is flowing down to the sea.
I don't know how many of you saw, but on Friday, the Taliban renamed the government of Afghanistan's Ministry of Women's Affairs the Ministry for Invitation, Guidance, and the Promotion of Virtue and the Prevention of Vice, converting it into a center of female repression. It's a slightly rebranded name from the first time the Taliban ruled Afghanistan. Now, they've claimed to be more open to higher education for women, and things are going to be different this time around, but nothing we've seen so far gives us any reason to trust that. And so it makes the group that we chose to share our offering with this month, Vital Choices Global Partnership, all that more important. This group had set up a program to help women in Afghanistan who are trying to escape, to get support in other ways to women in Afghanistan who are trying to stay. So whether you're supporting our offering here at this gathering or at home, I invite you to be as generous as you're able while we take this collection. There's a basket that's sitting over there because we're trying to avoid the practice of passing a basket around at the service for safety reasons. I invite you to walk over there, drop something in now, or contribute online or in any of the ways that are available in the program. Thank you.
And while you're doing that, feel free to join me in singing Wade in the Water, which is number 210 in the Gray Hymnal. Wade in the water.
invite the members of the board to come up now, please. Each year we have an in-gathering. One of the important functions is to install the people who've agreed to serve as your board of directors. This year, leading up to this installation, the board drafted a new covenant. And some of you have seen what I wrote about that covenant. It's put together, inspired by the covenant that the Northern New England Unitarian Universalist ministers have had for over a decade, but adapted to our board's use. And I think it's an extremely beautiful covenant that should give you a lot of pride and a lot of confidence that these people are serving you. So I've invited them to read it to you line by line. Ann Webster, who's the treasurer, can't participate because she's sick at home and following our instructions to not come when you don't feel well, even though we're pretty clear that it's not COVID. And so I'm going to invite the rest of you up here to do our choreographed reading of the covenant for the congregation. And I think you can speak directly into this without getting feedback from this particular position. We're struggling a little bit because to get the right sound for the people at Zoom, microphones have to be in a different position than to get the right sound for us here. So it's a little bit of a experiment and balancing act that we keep working with. Okay. Yeah. But just I think if you block this with your body, it works. So just stand in front.
Okay.
We covenant to support each other in the work of service to our faith community.
We come together in gratitude to share our gifts.
The depth of our wisdom and experience.
The clarity of our vision.
The strength of our hope. We want a lightness of heart and a depth of spirit.
We know it's complicated and there are differences among us in power, in practice, in belief.
We commit ourselves to radical honesty so that we may see the truth more clearly.
We assume the best of intentions and seek better understanding.
We will protect each other's vulnerabilities and be forgiving.
We want to respect each other's time by being present, fully informed, and prepared.
We want to function as one UU governing body and represent board positions as one voice.
Now there's a little bit where I speak to the board and the board responds to me with, "We will." And the words that are after that in your order of service. So have your order of service with you, please. And then I'm going to ask you, the congregation, to affirm this board with "We will," and stand and applaud them as they so richly deserve. So will you, members of the board of directors of CVUUS, serve the people of the congregation with energy, intelligence, imagination, and love?
The work of this congregation, the ministry of this congregation belongs to all of us and all of you. We ask the congregation to help us embody the vision of the Champlain Valley Unitarian Universalist Society.
Will all the members and friends of this community who will trust, support, and work with these religious leaders please stand now and say, "We will." And now please offer them your blessing. Thank you very much. So that was the first milestone today. The second milestone, and I'll try to be a little brief, but last spring, in conversation with the board, I said, I felt that barring some unforeseen disaster in the life of the congregation, that about 2 more years was the right time for me to serve as your lead minister. That will be 11 years, and I want to retire as an active congregant while I'm still able to serve you in some way and not just rely on you to take care of me to remember what my name is. So the timing seemed about right to me, and we agreed to the board that I would announce it to the whole congregation today, although some of you know that. So I'm fully here for the next 2 years, except for the 4 months that I'm on sabbatical starting in April. And part of that time is going to be spent at interim minister training so that I can help prepare you for making the most of your interim minister. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. It's been an amazing 9 years so far from my perspective serving this congregation, and I look forward to the last 2 years being just as amazing, if not more so. We have some of the more normal type of milestones as well. First of all, we have Barbara Carley connecting with the donations team on Wednesday via WhatsApp from Nova Scotia. Best milestone being a new record, I think, for how far away someone was when they joined a team or committee meeting. And I want to encourage others of you to think when you're traveling, if you've got an hour or two and the meeting group happens to be meeting, that you dive back into your CVUUS life, because it was really exciting for us to have Barb participating from that far away, and she really contributed. Francois Clemons, who can't be here today, sends this note. I'm off in Beverly, Massachusetts to sing at a memorial service for a friend who died several weeks ago. Stephanie Ray, the wife of Nathaniel Carpenter, one of my close college friends, was a great lover of music and attended every concert I gave over the past 40 years in the Boston area. May she rest in peace. Also on September 8th, one of my sisters, Barbara Parker, died of COVID-19 complications. She resided in Dallas. Her son, James, and her granddaughter, Royanna Parker, and I have had a blessed chance to reaffirm our care and love for one another. Thanks in advance for your care and prayers. I appreciate Francois sharing that, because this was a situation where he was out of communication with these people until this event. And so he lost a sister that he wasn't particularly close to and gained 2 close relationships that he didn't know were out there waiting for him. Lori Borden, Richard O'Donohue, and Margot Borden, as many of you know, have moved to Montana, and I got this note from Lori. We are looking forward to what autumn in the West looks like. We had a blast at Richard's youngest daughter's Casey's wedding, September 3rd, to Tyler Francis in Missoula. Very intimate, with only immediate family and dogs. Then we had a visit from cousins Nancy and Stephen Mandis as they headed to Yellowstone. We hope all is going well there. We hope to Zoom in, but we never know how things will work. We are definitely there at this ingathering in spirit. Please express our love to all. And this morning I heard from Jean Terwilliger via text that her son Austin is engaged to his partner of several years, Emma Pearson. The wedding will be next summer in Berlin, and they're still going to continue to live in Burlington. So for those of you who remember Emma growing up in the congregation, this is, of course, remember Austin growing up in the congregation and have met Emma, this is great news. Each week there are unspoken joys and concerns, and we're going to give you a minute to get in touch with those that are on your mind and have some silent meditation while we prepare for the next segment of this service.
All right. I'm going to invite the choir up now for our first proper choir anthem of the year. Yay! Exciting. We're going to sing Turn the World Around for You, which I'm sure many of you know. We're doing an arrangement of it with fun harmony and all that, stuff. So I hope you enjoy it.
When Harry Belafonte made that song famous, I don't think he felt that so his life included a pandemic. So there are always surprises. going to learn that the feedback is the sound of transition. So last year, I said in acknowledging that we were meeting only online for water communion, that water is a great metaphor for ingathering. Puddles emerge when individual drops gather in your yard and dips in the road, or sad but necessary to say, in bomb craters. Rills and rivers emerge when water gathers to flow where gravity dictates. Oceans emerge when water gathers once falling is no longer possible. The clouds emerge when water vaporizes, then rise into the sky from new drops. It's a gathering so fundamental to life that our ancestors repeatedly attributed control of the rain to divine beings. When water fails to gather in the ways we've grown to expect and rely on, we suffer famine, forced migrations, war, and other terrible calamities. When water gathers more rapidly than we expect and can handle, we suffer floods, social disasters so terrifying that memories of them are embedded in the oldest stories handed down in many human cultures. The many ways water gathers reminds us that we humans gather in countless ways as well, not all of which are life nourishing. We yearn for beloved community, but we humans quite naturally gather in violence-prone armies and randomly destructive mobs as well. In celebrating water communion, we are recognizing that this community is not just precious for what it already is, but sacred because of its potential and intent whenever it gathers. Unlike the water drop, you have some control over when, where, and why you gather. Don't ever underestimate what a gift that is. Don't ever underestimate what a gift you are when you choose to gather in love. Now, all that I said last year when we were only online is true, but I want to acknowledge that this year we gather in part here and in part online. And we've all seen how crazy that can be at times and how it's hard to serve all of these different ways of gathering at the same time. We're ensnared in a very frustrating time of uncertainty about the course of the pandemic and our very different levels of risk of catching COVID and our very different levels of risk tolerance. So instead of thinking about water, I found myself thinking this year about CVUUS as a body, just like yours or mine, that can be attacked, in this case, indirectly by the COVID virus. And I found myself asking whether this congregation has resistance to the impact of an epidemic on its members. And if so, how this collective immune system functions. What ensures that COVID won't take us down as a congregation? Just as the body has many types of antibodies that defend against the virus in different ways, we have many ways of keeping CVUUS going. Now, some of these work very well remotely: financial support, participation in governance via Zoom meetings. They can be performed remotely for the most part. Other things like acts of kindness, supporting each other in times of need, or worshiping together through singing in a choir require some fairly direct forms of contact. And still others are more like vitamins that preserve our general viability rather than dealing just with COVID. And I just want to give you one example that came to my attention this week of what I mean by a vitamin. Does one of our safety measures recommended by the Safe Congregation team, supported by your staff and your board, seem excessive to you? Do you find yourself rolling your eyes or ignoring it? I'd like to suggest that you contribute most to our congregational health in this case. And generally, if you can remind yourself that all of our policies represent a meeting of the minds in compromise, even if they are not completely rational in your view or mine. And secret flash here, not every policy we have in this congregation is completely rational in my mind either. But they are what love looks like in action. Be grateful they exist and thank those who remind others to observe them. And then, by all means, keep sharing your reasons why you would amend this policy, whether it's a health policy or any other. As Hosea Ballou, the most influential of the early Universalist ministers in Vermont, and then throughout the nation, said 2 centuries ago, if we agree in love, there is no disagreement that can do us any injury. But if we do not, no other agreement can do us any good. Let us endeavor to keep the unity of spirit in the bonds of peace. Now, a bond of peace is one way to hold us together. A communion, which we are about to celebrate, our intention to be bound together peacefully in the service of life-giving love is another one. And in that spirit, let us celebrate our water communion today. So the way we're going to try and do it here, and Margie's got this camera set up to memorialize it beautifully for the folks who can't be with us for one reason or another, is I'm going to ask you to move to this side and come spaced 6 feet apart, but promptly when the next person leaves. Pour your water into the bowl, and we've got a spare in case we end up filling it, so don't worry if you brought a fair amount of water. And then step back here and say what you're pouring this water in the spirit of. And I will stand behind you, not to be a stalker, but just to block the static. So, who wants to lead off and give us an example of how this can be done? Don't be shy. Who brought some water? All right. And please, when you get here, say your name first, because not everybody will know everybody. So pour it in there.
So I pour this water. John and I pour this water, and my name is Kate. That came from the clouds into our rain barrel, and I'm pouring it in the spirit of fluidity.
I am pouring this water for Richard Hopkins and myself, Gail Muncho, in the spirit of gratitude for a very beautiful stream that we particularly enjoy walking along.
And Christy, I pour this water in the spirit of summer travel that had been postponed a long time, and the spirit of being totally at peace with being with home water.
Dale Birdsall, I pour this water. Whoops. In the spirit of rejuvenation that came from the Cayuga Lake and the Finger Lakes, where we have a family cottage, and this year was very nice to be there for a while. Thank you.
Casting, and I pour this water in the spirit of life and love and loss and family that we've all experienced in the last year or two.
Becky's drum, and I pour this water from Lake Monterey in Idaho, where I gathered with my son and daughter after my husband's death, and I pour it in the spirit of the healing power of family and nature.
Well, this must be a Barstow thing. This is also rainwater from my rain barrel.
I'm Ravel Allen, and I pour this water in gratitude for Mother Nature providing water watered my vegetables and fed me and some of my neighbors.
I'm Marjorie Carson, and I pour this water in spirit of gratitude for the wonderful water from my well in Bristol, which waters me and it waters my gardens and so forth, and also for the gratitude for being able to see my children and grandchildren after a long absence earlier this summer.
I'm Marty and for this water in tremendous gratitude for being able to travel to Cape Cod and visit what my friend says, my dead relatives, my ancestors on the Cape, and the joy of all the things that one can discover, and also be grateful for walking on the beach.
This is Ellen Harden pouring water from Austin Lake, New Hampshire, in the spirit of family, presence, and bond. Jerry and I'm Bobby Loney, and Jerry and I got this water from Lake Champlain yesterday in a baggie. We felt very clever that we came up with that idea. And I'm pouring it in the spirit of gratitude.
Ginny Ashenfelter, and I pour this, excuse me, water in gratitude for the abundance and sharing that the garden sprinkling system at my house has offered to a lot of us.
Pam Billings. I pour this in gratitude from multiple lakes in Vermont, but for family, friends, laughter, and love.
I'm Helene Vanderberg, and Larry and I finally made it to the ocean after 3 years of not being able to put our feet in the water. And I assume that there's enough water that it'll dilute the salt. And I pour this water in honor of all of the sea creatures.
I'm Mary Conlon, and I pour this water from my tap in the spirit of the circle of life and home and family.
I don't know how to pour. I'm Janice Sabbath. This water's from our spring. And what I was going to say, which I'm pouring it for home and family and love.
I'm Gail Gordon, and this is nutrient water from my hydroponics that I discovered this winter, and I pour it in a spirit of nutrition.
We're Artley and Rich Wolfson, and we have two waters, one collected this summer from the hometown of Gus Swift, Artley's father, whom many of you remember as a member of this congregation. And the second water was collected March 3rd, 2020 from the Gulf of Mexico, so it's pre-pandemic water, sort of. And we are pouring both these in the spirit of continuity and recovery.
So we're Bill and Abby Sessions, and this water was taken from Otter Creek, right behind our house in Weybridge, and it really is in the spirit of home.
I'm Julia Chant, and I brought this water from our duck pond at home in the spirit of thankfulness for a safe place for us, family, and community to share our love.
I'm Ronnie. I brought this water from the New Haven River right across the street from where I live, in the spirit of music.
This water was gathered at the west side of Lake Champlain, at Westport, at a place we would never have access to, except that we made a friend who lived there and gave us access to that part of the lake. And I pour it in the spirit of, even as I was gathering, sort of laughing at the fact that, of course, the water has been here and been recirculated forever and ever and ever. And it's been in every single body of water in the world, and it's been in people's bodies, and just joy at the miracle that it happened to all be in the place where I could gather it and bring it to share it with my love for all of you here. And just before I pour it, I'm going to share two other things that came into me from people who can't be here. Lori, Richard, and Margot, in addition to their check-ins, said they wanted to send spiritual water to our collection, and that it would be from their backyard pond and waterfall, where we often sit to watch the birds, mountains, and quaking aspens. And that's in the spirit of still feeling connected to us. And Chris Murphy sent me a picture of, for her in Ireland, where she's on vacation. She had located the Unitarian Church in Dublin, and she was standing in front of it. And she couldn't go inside and steal their holy water to send to us, but I'm sure she was thinking about being with us because she took the time to send that picture. So I know that there are other people who are online putting things in chat. I'm not, Julia, do you have access to that? Hang on a second. Julia was going to see what people had posted. Meanwhile, I'll see if I can get this childproof cap off or not. Yeah, Martha, can you be our screen? Yeah, between there, yeah. Yes. Oh. Okay, come up and speak, identify yourself and say what you're sharing.
I'm Anne Friedrichs. Excuse me. My mother brought us to the water when we were born. And this year, the place she brought us, the camp we went to, was torn down and will be made into a year-round home by the family. But she also died at the end of April this year. You knew her as Esther Friedrichs, and I have my sister here with me who's holding her membership card, and she passed away April 24th, but water was her hallmark.
So we're having a little trouble getting the chat up on the phone. I'm sure that there are some people. Did you get it?
In chat, nobody sent it.
Okay, we didn't get anything in chat. So, but I know that there are people out there contributing spiritually. So what we do at the end of having gathered all the water we've gathered is that we invite children, if they're present, to lead us in this part of the service if they'd like. But we take the water and we pour it on the gardens here around the porch while we sing Spirit of Life together. So I'd invite everybody to stand for Spirit of Life. The words are in your order of service. Most of us have sung it many, many times, and Ronnie will lead us in it. And even if it's new to you, you will catch on fast. And Papa, you're going to lead the singing at the mic? Oh, wonderful.
Spirit of life, come to me. Sing in my heart, stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Move in our hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
So as you go forth from this year's ingathering and water communion, I pray that you do so in the spirit of having lots and lots of ideas about how the day is going to be wonderful, knowing that some of them won't necessarily play out the way you envisioned, but trusting the fact that you had these ideas as a very important part of staying in connection with that love with a capital L that's going to help make our congregation and the world and your own life better each day. Blessed be and amen.